New York's classic rock, Q1043.
We say good morning to FDNY Commissioner Daniel Nigro. It has been such a horrendous week for the FDNY. We're coming off a week ago, 17 people were killed in a fire in the East Tremont section of the Bronx. 8 of those were children, one as young as 4. And as of this taping, because I'm speaking with the commissioner on Tuesday, as of this day, 13 people are still fighting for their lives in critical condition. Commissioner, this has got to be one of the darkest days for you as FDNY commissioner.
Well, certainly 4 years ago, we lost 13 people at another fire, similar fire in the Bronx. And no one expected this on a quiet Sunday morning. To have 32 people removed from a building in cardiac and respiratory arrest is unfathomable, really. A residential fire with this many people affected. It was a horrific scene. Our members operated heroically to bring these people out. Our EMTs and medics doing work in the street that usually is done in the hospital, starting IVs, intubating patients, transporting them to the hospital. We lost 17 people, but it could have been even worse. That's how bad this situation was in the Bronx.
The medical examiner's office just announced today that all of the deaths were due to smoke inhalation. And the more we learn as the week wears on, it seemed to be a combination of horrors that led to this situation. Number one, the fact that the smoke alarms went off, but they went off so often in situations where they shouldn't have gone off that the residents ignored them. Also, that it was a faulty space heater used in the cold. And then also the fact, and correct me if there's new information on this, that on 2 of the floors, there were the self-closing automatic doors that malfunctioned, and that the city has cited the landlord many times over these infractions.
You know, all the things you said are correct. I think I'll start the timeline from the beginning. This fire starts in an apartment that's a duplex apartment. So you enter the apartment on the 3rd floor and go down the stairs to the bedrooms on 2. So an electric space heater malfunctioned on 2. The people were home. They all were able to get out of the building safely, but the self-closing door, the father said he had pushed it all the way open and it didn't close behind him when they left. So the fire and smoke got out into the hallway. Hot smoke is going to do one thing. It's going to rise. It went up the stairs throughout this 19-story building with 118 apartments, some as large as 4 bedrooms. It filled the building with smoke. Our members fought the fire back into the apartment. Meanwhile, people upstairs were succumbing to smoke inhalation. And this is not unusual. The fact that most people that perish in a fire perish from the smoke, not from burns. And so that is not unusual. It's the number of people that perished. And the way this smoke traveled up, the 15th floor, the door was open there too, the self-closing door from the stairs to the hall. And so much smoke was on the 15th floor and came through windows on the 15 that our chiefs initially thought they were 2 separate fires. They thought there was another heavy fire on 15. And that's where we did find some victims up there, because that became completely untenable as that hot smoke trying to find its way out of the building found an opening on 15 and filled the hallways and some of the apartments on 15 with smoke.
I imagine it is New York City law that in apartment buildings, you have to have the automatic self-closing doors.
It is, you know, we preach to people, close the door, but we know in a panic, people forget.
Right.
And that's what happens. It's understandable. So the law is that the door should be self-closing. Now, some people disable the door themselves because they've been locked out of their apartment while they were taking the garbage to the chute. Some people store things or have doormats that preclude the door from closing. You know, I don't hesitate to always blame the building owner, but we're preaching now to everyone again and again and again. If you live in an apartment, not tell the building management, get them to fix it. And if you're part of the building maintenance crew, check all the doors in your building. Make sure they all work, the doors from the stairways and the doors to each apartment, because this is the second time in the Bronx where we've had these multiple deaths. 30 people have died because of doors not closing behind them to a fire apartment. They're there for a reason. That reason is to save lives.
How many FDNYers were injured on Sunday? What is the situation there?
Well, we had quite a number with various smoke inhalation injuries. Members ran out of air upstairs. They were working feverishly to remove these people, and they suffered some smoke inhalation. Our first due units pushing that hand line, the nozzle in. Many of those members were suffered some burns. All of our members will have either already recovered or will recover quite soon, and that we're thankful for that. But it took a heavy toll on the approximately 250 members that responded to that scene. Heavy toll, and it will continue to, because psychologically we're a life-saving organization, and to lose one person saddens us. And this type of an operation where they're taking body after body out of the building is a tough one.
Were there enough FDNYers there on hand? Was there a staffing issue at all?
No, no fire department in the world can put more people on the scene quickly, more trained, dedicated people than we can. So our first units got there in 3 minutes, and they started to work, and we sent in many alarms afterwards. Units continued to come in, close to 100 EMTs and paramedics, probably 250 firefighters and fire officers.
At what point were you alerted? I don't know how this works with you being FDNY commissioner. It's a Sunday. There are so many fires in New York City, but when were you alerted to this specific fire, and what happened then?
I was just coming out of church Sunday morning, and I get a call, as I normally do for these types of fires, and they said, Commissioner, there's a fourth alarm in the Bronx. It went to a fourth alarm very quickly, and we have 6 red tag patients, meaning 6 people critically injured, which is an enormous number. So I said, I'm responding right away. I'm going to respond to the fire in the Bronx. And on the way there, I'm hearing the reports, and this number was growing, and it was trying to understand what was happening there, that these number of victims keeps growing. And they call me again and say, I think at the time there was 19 victims. And by the time I got there, they were still taking people out. It took me a while to get up to 181st Street. Still taking victims out, working on them in the street. It was a horrific scene.
The heroics were so extraordinary. I mean, hearing about FDNYers going into a building and then their own oxygen tanks giving out after a certain period of time, and some of them kept going.
Well, we don't give up easy. When we're needed, we're going to do what we have to do. I always point to the example of 9/11. I mean, our members do the impossible, and they keep going up when everyone's coming down. So that's what they did, and they brought out everybody they could, and some of them they were able to save through their heroics and through the heroic works of EMTs and paramedics that just have extraordinary skills.
There was a picture in the New York Post of FDNY, or 45-year-old Matt Zimfer, carrying a baby. Can you tell us his story?
Yeah, first of all, that's quite a photo. That's an award-winning photo of this firefighter balancing on the ladder with this with this infant. And our members went up portable ladders, aerial ladders, took people down out of the building, seeing this is what we do, carrying this child, this helpless child. That child is okay today due to these heroic people willing to put their lives on the line to save others.
I'm speaking with FDNY Commissioner Daniel Nigro about the horrific fire in the East Tremont section of the Bronx a week ago today. 17 dead, 8 of them children, one of them as young as 4, 13 as of this taping in critical condition, still fighting for their lives. So you already talked about the toll this takes on the FDNY, which includes, for those who don't know, the EMS, because the EMS, the medical technicians in New York City, that is run under the umbrella of the FDNY. So we're talking about people that are really, I mean, they did the most extraordinary life-saving work. And then you have the emotional fallout. What happens to support them in this? Because these are people who would be the last people on earth to say, I need help, because they are the helpers.
Well, we've learned over the years that our people do need help when these things happen, and we've encouraged people to seek it. And we actively send our counseling service units out right away. On Sunday, they were out. They were going to firehouses and EMS stations, talking to people, offering help. And we offer any service possible to keep our people not only physically healthy, but mentally healthy, because we realize that this job can take its toll on people. And many of us over the years have been reluctant to say it's a sign of weakness, but it isn't. Everyone needs help at times, and everyone should get that help. And we'll make sure that we offer it. We've sent our counseling people all over this country. We've been asked by fire departments, anytime there's a tragic event, can we send our counseling unit there to help them? And we do. So New York City FDNY is a resource in this country, not just for search and rescue and whatever else we do, but also for counseling.
I hope you don't mind me mentioning, I'm on the advisory board of an organization you're very familiar with, Friends of Firefighters. And as you mentioned, a lot of firefighters and EMSers just don't want to go the official route. Friends of Firefighters offers free therapy for firefighters, retired firefighters, FDNYers, that is, and their families. And it is completely anonymous. It's completely confidential. And I just want to put it out there, if anyone's listening who would need their services, Friends of Firefighters is just a tremendous organization. You know, when you're talking about people's mental health, that's your life. That's.
Well, when you mentioned Friends of Firefighters to me, preaching to the choir, I was served on their board before I came back as commissioner, and I know the services they provide. And I understand there are times when people don't want to come to us, but we hope they do go somewhere. And a good place to go is Friends of Firefighters.
Okay, let's go back to the big issue of saving lives here. We only have about a minute and a half left. Moving forward, what can be done to prevent this from happening again? Because as we mentioned, there were multiple factors involved here, not just one thing.
Well, space heaters, well, we preach with space heaters. We don't say they should be outlawed. There's a use for them. Buy one that's UL listed. That's a well-manufactured unit. Plug it directly into the wall. Never use an extension cord. Never put it within 3 feet of anything that can burn, anything combustible. Don't leave it on all night while you're sleeping. You don't leave things like this on. Make sure it's attended, just like a candle and such. And it can be used safely. And the other issue that we have is these doors. Make sure your door, if you live in an apartment with requiring self-closing doors, make sure yours works properly. If it doesn't, inform the management. And if you're part of management, make sure every door in your building works as it should. Protect those tenants that you should be serving.
Anything else you'd like to add, Commissioner?
No, thank you very much. I just as usual, praise the men and women of my department. I'm always proud to be the leader of this department. What they do is incredible.
They are the best of the best, is what I always say. Thank you so much,
That's
FDNY Commissioner Daniel Nigro. And coming up next, we'll be speaking with a nurse on the front lines of COVID in this third wave. So stay tuned, Q104.3.
New York's classic rock, Q1043.